Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out again exploring, and with me is Martin Snow, and we are back again at Cuckmere Haven with the rather splendid, if you have a look at that, the Seven Sisters behind us. You may be feeling that actually we came on one day and did several shots in one go, and you may be right. But this time we're looking for something a little different. We've been here looking at the defences from the Second World War. We've looked at the Coast Guard cottages in the past. But Martin, you've brought me around to the cliffs here. Why?
Well, just a little further round is a location called Hope Gap, and this was used as a point to launch submarine cables to France from. If we're lucky, we may be able to see some remnants in the wave cut platform, but we may not.
Right, we've been on some of your trips where we've looked for things and they've not necessarily been there, and that's because that's what happens in history, isn't it?
Yes,
things
disappear for whatever reason. The cables here were here up until the Second World War when they were cut.
Right.
Presumably to stop the Germans tapping into our communications or whatever, and then after the war the cables were reinstated, and they lasted until 1980s or 1990s.
So these are old. When were they dropped? In the Victorian period?
Originally, yes.
Yeah. So these are old communications that would go to France.
Mostly to France, and then probably on to Europe. Yes.
Yes. So massively important communication cables, and coming out the side of these cliffs, we're in West Sussex. Sorry, we're in East Sussex. Have to get that right because people do like to get that little part of the fact right. A very important part, and of course, this is one of the areas of interest, Martin, that you're particularly interested in. You're more the industrial archaeology.
Yes, that's right.
So although, and I just want to stress this really, although sometimes we've been to places and you can go, but there's nothing here to see. That's not really the point, is it? It's that it was here.
It was here, and
you're marking history and you're understanding the reason it was here.
Yes, that's right. Yes, there are reasons.
Yes.
Although today those reasons may need researching.
Reinterpretation, yes.
But there's also interesting geology here as well.
Yes, as you say. I mean, we've looked up at the top, and there's a different strata of rock. So you've obviously got the white chalks, which of course behind us is the Seven Sisters. But you've got this brown sort of sand or sandstone.
Yes, it's the tertiary beds, which is one name for them, which were laid down much later than the chalk were, and at one time covered the whole of the chalk to some depth, but in most places they've been worn away. And in this, like here, there's just like a small cap.
Yes, and if I just turn the camera around, you can see the extent that it is behind us. A bit slippery. You're all right.
Yeah,
slippery on. And of course, unlike the Seven Sisters, which look white and immaculate, they don't have that tertiary layer on the top, so they're not stained by the sand running down.
No, that's right. They're quite. You wouldn't think it was chalk from a distance.
No, it looks totally different. Let's press on then and see if we can find where the cables may have jutted out, and you can tell us a bit more about the history. Okay. So Martin, you've brought me out onto the wave cut platform, I believe. This is what this sort of greyish, sandy, hard stone area is called.
Yeah, it's the remains of the chalk that hasn't been eroded because the power of the waves, it would be below this. Right,
so this would have been cliff.
This was cliff out.
Yeah,
miles
out. So I mean, it's worth just bringing the camera around so you can get a vague idea of how far this extends. And this is the continuing story down here at Cuckmere Haven of the fact that the sea erodes the land and chalk is very susceptible to it. But Martin, we're looking for the cables that, as you say, were once poking out or dropped over the side, you said. Is that right?
Well, they came out, they would have come down, been taken down the cliff,
Yeah.
presumably fastened, down the cliff, and then out either in existing channels or channels that they chopped out to
bury them, to keep them safe.
To keep them safe.
Yes.
And then across the channel.
Across
to
the channel.
France.
And I mean, they're just lowering them into the sea when they get to lower the cables. They sit on the seabed, do they?
Yes, once they get away from the
coast.
There's these days they do tend to dig a little bit of a trench.
In case pleasure boats or anything, or keels of boats or ships sort of cut them.
So
they would have. So basically, what you're saying is that they would have lain in little trenches along here, out to sea. So there's nothing to see. 80 years have passed.
No.
But there are these sort of channels here. I don't know if you can kind of see this. Oops, a daisy. I can't do that without doing that. There are these sort of little channels, which may or may not have been the sort of place that the cables have been laid in. And we're going to head back towards the cliff. There's no real sign where it was hung. I mean, it's just the fact that it's an interesting thing.
Yes, it's an interesting history.
Yeah.
There used to be a hut close to the edge of the cliff, but that's gone.
That's gone. Along with the cliff?
Along with the cliff.
Along with the cliff.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can move our way back. Is this a unique thing? Was there other cables around England to other parts of the world?
Yeah, in a lot of places. The transatlantic and the ones that went around the world through the Straits of Gibraltar went out in Cornwall.
Oh, right.
And
this is miles and miles of cable then.
Yes.
That had to be manufactured and tested.
And then wound onto massive drums, and then special boats would take it out and unwind it.
Yes.
Across. The first cables were for telegraph, in other words,
Morse code.
Morse code.
Right.
And only later were
radio, or not radio, but analog signals.
Telephone.
Telephone.
What voice?
Yes.
But of course, you need amplifiers every so often.
Yes, I mean it's quite a technical advance, and you're talking. Well, these were originally dropped in the Victorian period, so
yes.
As you say, with the telegraph cables, and then the same wires reused. Or were they?
No, they were laid new.
They
ones.
used fresh ones, so they would have to haul up the old ones, or just leave them.
Generally, just leave them.
Just leave them. They're not doing any trouble, are they?
It's a lot of work to reclaim them.
Right. Okay.
Every so often, a ship's anchor would snag them.
Oh, would they?
Yeah. So they'd have to go out, pull up the cable, splice it back together,
yes.
and then drop it down again.
Oh, right. Just like editing film, really.
Yeah.
In a way, but on a much grander and larger scale.
Yes. There were also cables went out from a place called Holywell, which is just the other side of Beachy Head from here, not far from Eastbourne.
And where did that go? To Belgium?
Again to France.
Right.
Yeah, the shortest sea route.
Yes. Oh, interesting. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Another slightly not off topic, an interesting walk with a quirky bit of history that not a lot of people think about. Thank you, Martin, once again.
Okay, my pleasure.
You've brought me to some interesting and oddities of our British history, which is...
Are you calling me odd?
I'm not calling you odd, just saying that.
I probably am, yes.
Yes. And this is a rather beautiful spot, so if you get a chance to come down here, do so. It's lovely, it really is. And I'll see you on the next walk. Don't forget to subscribe, press the bell notification, give me a thumbs up, make a comment if you've got anything to add. Now, Martin.
Where do we go from here?
How the hell do we get up that cliff?
I don't know. We're going to have to...
Going to climb?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. We're going to climb these stairs. We're no fools.